Bhatt, and in the next 1 hour we will be bringing you all the stories and updates from India and from around the world. We will be keeping an eye on COVID-19 situation, vaccination drive across the country. We'll be looking at COVID numbers worldwide. We will also talk about the implications of US President Joe Biden's big announcement if US military's missions pull out in Afghanistan by August end, and also keep an eye on External Affairs Minister's Russia visit. But first up on Midday Prime headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chairs a high-level meeting to review ramping up of oxygen supply across the country. More than 1,500 PSA oxygen plants coming up. Plants contributed by PM Cares to support more than 4 lakh oxygenated beds. Ministers take charge after the recent cabinet reshuffle. Mansukh Mandaviya assumes office as Minister of Chemicals and Fertilizers. Kaushal Kishore takes charge in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Jyotiraditya Scindia assumes charge of Civil Aviation Ministry, and Mahendranath Pandey takes charge as Union Minister for Heavy Industries. India's COVID-19 vaccination coverage reaches nearly 37 crore mark, 36.89 lakh vaccine doses administered so far, more than 38.18 crore vaccine doses provided to states and union territories by the centre. Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra briefs media about the delimitation exercise in Jammu and Kashmir, assures that the exercise will be fair and transparent, says the Commission is working as per the Delimitation Commission Act and will submit the report within the time frame. External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar holds talks with his Russian counterpart Sergey Lavrov in Moscow today. Minister also begin his 2-day visit to Georgia. He will be the first Indian foreign minister to visit independent Georgia. US President Joe Biden announces August 31st is the end date of US military mission in Afghanistan. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson also announces end of UK's official role in Afghanistan in the 2 decades-long conflict. And we begin now Midday Prime with the big news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today reviewed the progress of oxygen augmentation and availability across the country. Principal Secretary to Prime Minister, Cabinet Secretary, Secretary Health, Secretary MOHA and other important officials were also present in the meeting. Officials briefed Prime Minister about the progress on installation of PSA oxygen plants across the country. More than 1,500 PSA oxygen plants are coming up across the nation, which includes a contribution from the PM Cares as well as various ministries as well as PSUs. Oxygen plants contributed by Prime Minister Cares are coming up in all states and districts of the country. PM was informed that once all PSA oxygen plants coming up through the PM Care would be functional, they would support more than 4 lakh oxygenated beds. Prime Minister instructed the officials to ensure that these plants are made functional at the earliest and to work closely with the state governments for the same. Officers apprised the Prime Minister that they are in regular touch with officers from state governments regarding fast-tracking the oxygen plants. Prime Minister asked officials to ensure that there is adequate training of hospital staff on operation and maintenance of these oxygen plants. Prime Minister also directed officials to ensure that each district has trained personnel available. Officials informed him that there is a training module prepared by experts and that they are targeting training of around 8,000 people across the country. Prime Minister also said they should deploy advanced technology like LOT to track performance and functioning of these oxygen plants at a local and national level. Officials apprised the Prime Minister about a pilot being done using IoT for monitoring the performance of the oxygen plants. As we stay with these graphics, so the big takeaways, Arun Sharma, my colleague, joining us on more details on this big development. It's a big move in terms of meeting the demands, oxygen augmentation, supply, and Arun, big takeaways of this very, very important development.
All right, Sakal, so when we talk about the important takeaways, there are three big takeaways as far as this meeting, or the review meeting, which was chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi with the stakeholders of the oxygen is concerned. The number one big takeaway is that, Sakal, that we know this fact that from the PM CARES Fund, 1,500 PSA oxygen plants were approved, and this is to be set up, all across the country, specifically in Tier 2 towns, Tier 3 towns, in far-flung areas as well, so that the oxygen supplies can be ramped up in the smaller towns specifically. So this is all across the length and breadth of the country. 1,500 oxygen PSA plants will be set up. Now this was from the PM CARES Fund. Now once all these PSA plants are set up, they will be in a position to support 4 lakh beds primarily on a daily basis. So this ensures that if in case there is an oxygen crisis in the country, if in case there is spike in the number of COVID cases, this infrastructure, the oxygen infrastructure, will ensure that it can support 4 lakh beds on daily basis. Now Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly told the officials that this needs to be fast-tracked, and of course there has to be center and state coordination as far as the construction or as far as setting up of this oxygen PSA plants. That's number one big takeaway.
Yes.
Second big takeaway is about the Internet of Things, that is IoT. Now IoT has to be used as far as oxygen supply is concerned. Recently we have seen that how the cryogenic tankers were installed with the IoT technology or the GPS-based system, so that the monitoring can be done where the tanker is going. There is no leakage as far as tanker is concerned. There is no corruption involved as far as tankers are concerned. A tanker is moving from point A to point B, whether it is reaching on time, so it can be tracked with the help of IoT, that is the Internet of Things. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi clearly instructed this point that all these PSA plants should be installed with the Internet of Things, so that monitoring can be done, real-time monitoring can be done, status of the oxygen supplies can be ensured on a real-time basis. So that's the reason why Internet of Things should be involved as far as this entire oxygen PSA plants are concerned. Third big takeaway is about the operational part and the maintenance aspect, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi was informed that 8,000 personnel as of now are being trained for the maintenance purposes and the operational purposes for the oxygen plants, because most of the oxygen gets leaked or it gets wasted because there is no proper maintenance, there is no proper operational aspect as well. So as of now, 8,000 personnel are being trained as of now, so that they can do proper maintenance of the oxygen plants and of course the operational aspect as well. These were the three big takeaways as far as this meeting is concerned, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi did review this important meeting, and we can expect that very soon 1,500 PSA oxygen plants will be all set ready all across the country as of now.
It's a big way forward in terms of meeting oxygen demands, in terms of augmenting oxygen supply in the country. Many thanks, Arun, for simplifying and explaining us those three big takeaways. Thank you for joining us, Arun. And now let's move on to our developing story on Midday Prime. The Delimitation Commission is on a 4-day visit to Jammu and Kashmir. The commission, led by Justice retired Ranjana Prakash Desai, met all the representatives of political parties in Srinagar, Pahalgam, Kishtwar and in Jammu. These are the districts. Now the commission addressed the press conference in Jammu. Chief Election Commissioner Sumeet Chandra has said that the commission met over 290 groups and individuals, registered parties, NGOs and certain organizations. He said the first time the people were given the opportunity to put their points before the commission. He also said that some groups who met the commission demanded reservation of seats for them.
The commission met more than 290 groups of the people, including recognized political parties, registered parties, local bodies, civil societies, and these groups of 290 groups were consisting of something around more than 800 persons. We also had meeting in Kishtwar and we had meeting in Jammu. And in Srinagar and Jammu, both the places the commission had meetings up to 10:30 p.m. because of overwhelming response from various organizations.
Well, the Chief Election Commissioner also added that taking into consideration the views and demands of the people and parties who met the commission, a draft will be prepared which will then be put into public domain to take views of the people. And after that, the final draft will be prepared.
After hearing all these persons and after hearing the associate members also, a draft will be prepared, which will be put in the public domain for their comments, for their concerns or that particular thing, and only after seeing all that the comments, all that particular draft, the final draft will be prepared.
So the first draft will be put in public domain, open for comments and feedback, as reiterated by Mr. Chandra. My colleague Ramesh Rana joins us to put this in perspective from Jammu. Ramesh, you were present at the press conference. Bring us up to speed. Yes, how this exercise actually panned out. 4 days were there. They met 290 plus groups, parties, stakeholders. Much more details, please.
Good afternoon, Sakal. See, this was the first visit of this full-fledged relocation commission to JMK. For the first 2 days, it was in Srinagar. There it met all the political parties, representatives of various organizations, NGOs, and individuals. And after that, yesterday it arrived in Kishtwar, where also it met a lot of delegations of these political parties and representatives of other NGOs and individuals. And yesterday evening it held a series of meetings in Jammu, where all the political parties, leaders of all political parties, representatives of NGOs, heads of NGOs, and various organizations. And today, before leaving for Delhi, it addressed a press conference here in Jammu. And the commission said that this exercise of reviving this connections in assembly connections in JKUT is a very complex issue and not a mere arithmetic. But it was clear. The commission said that the whole exercise will be completed within the prescribed time frame, and it will be a very fair and free and transparent exercise.
Okay, very briefly, the reaction response of these stakeholders who put forth their demand, including the public by and large.
See, Sikal, almost 290 delegations met this delimitation commission, and it is comprising almost 800 to 900 individuals. So it was a very big exercise, and the commission it was given encouraging response, overwhelming response from the parties, individuals, and the groups, and everybody put forth their views and suggestions, and everybody was very happy that the commission gave them a proper hearing,
okay.
and they were very hopeful that the commission will do its job perfectly, which the commission today said that there is no doubt that the working of the commission, that it will be very transparent. Though there was some one political party has who didn't get the commission.
Okay.
The commission said that it would have been better had people who belong to the party also met the commission and put forth his views before it.
Correct. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Rana, for joining us from Jammu. And now let's move on to the next segment, that is National Prime segment. So for the last 4 days, large number of tourists witnessed in northern states of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, a sort of tourist influx there. Tourism has picked up substantially, but it has also come to the notice that people are not following proper COVID protocols. Hundreds of people were seen taking bath under the waterfall without following the rules of social distancing. The administration has also allowed only 50 people to visit Kampti Falls in Missouri, one of the popular tourist spots in terms of tightening the COVID protocol. These are the visuals. Now at the same time, shifting focus to Uttarakhand there, Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami has said that the state machineries are cautious and taking all steps to monitor the crowded places in the state. The Chief Minister said that he does not want to give any relaxation regarding the situation of Corona. right, let's move on and talk about other states witnessing influx. Apart from Mussoorie, thousands of people are also seen roaming without mask, without following social distancing in Manali of Himachal Pradesh. Prime Minister Modi has also expressed concern of the violation of the rules of prevention from corona. After the relaxation of the lockdown, people are moving towards Shimla and upper reaches of Manali in Himachal Pradesh. The centre has described the pictures of people gathering in large numbers at hill stations as scaring and citing that the pandemic is not over yet. Health Ministry had written a letter to the Himachal Pradesh government regarding the massive violation of COVID appropriate behaviour. And now let's move on to the update coming on the COVID-19 situation and vaccination drive from across the country. India's cumulative vaccination coverage has exceeded 36.89 crore as per the latest update. A total of 36 crore 89 lakh 91,222 vaccine doses have been administered so far under nationwide vaccination drive. 43,393 new cases have been reported from across the country in the last 24 hours. Less than 50,000 daily new cases have been reported since 12 continuous days. This is a result of sustained and collaborative efforts by the centre and the states and union territories. India's active caseload today stood at 4,58,727 and active cases are now only 1.49% of the country's total positive cases. Out of the people infected since the beginning of the pandemic, 2,98,88,284 have already recovered from COVID-19 and 44,459 patients have recovered in the last 24 hours. This constitutes an overall recovery rate of 97.19%. So in the first case of Zika virus in Kerala, a 24-year-old pregnant woman has been diagnosed with a mosquito-transmitted disease. There are 13 other suspected cases of the virus from Thiruvananthapuram. Samples have been sent to National Institute of Virology at Pune for confirmation. The woman is hailing from Parasalai. She's also undergoing treatment at a private hospital in Thiruvananthapuram. She delivered her baby on 7th of July. She had been admitted to the hospital on June 28th with fever, headache and red marks on her body. Union Minister Mansukh Mandaviya today took charge as the Minister of Chemicals and Fertilizers. After taking charge, the Union Minister said that he will try to live up to Prime Minister Modi's vision for farmers' income in which fertilizers have a greater role to play.
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने फार्मर्स के लिए जो विजन रखा है और किसान की आय डबल हो, दोगुनी हो, उसमें फर्टिलाइजर का एक महत्वपूर्ण रोल होता है और प्रधानमंत्री जी की आकांक्षाओं को पूरी करने का मैं हर संभव कोशिश करूंगा.
Kaushal Kishore also took charge as Minister of State in the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. A two-time MP, Kishore represents the Mohanlalganj Lok Sabha constituency in UP. Having spent over 3 decades in public life, Kaushal Kishore on Wednesday was sworn in as the Union Minister in the Narendra Modi government. Also, Jyotiraditya Madhav Sindhya took charge as Civil Aviation Minister today. Former Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri was present on the occasion. And now let's take a look at what's making news across the globe. And in top news from across the globe, US President Joe Biden has announced that the US military mission in Afghanistan will end on August 31st despite new concerns about the possibility of a civil war. Biden said that it is up to Afghan people alone how they run their country. Biden delivered his most extensive comments to date about the US withdrawal from Afghanistan under pressure from critics to give more explanation for his decision to withdraw. Biden says that, and I quote, "We did not go to Afghanistan to nation build and added US plans to move thousands of Afghan interpreters out of the country in anticipation of the end of the US military mission in the country on August 31st.
We did not go to Afghanistan to nation build. And it's the right and the responsibility of Afghan people alone to decide their future and how they want to run their country. The Afghan government and leadership has to come together. They clearly have the capacity to sustain the government in place. The question is, will they generate the kind of cohesion to do it? It's up to the people of Afghanistan to decide on what government they want, not us to impose the government on them. Do I trust the Taliban? No. But I trust the capacity of the Afghan military, who is better trained, better equipped, and more competent in terms of conducting war.
In the meantime, Afghan security forces continue their offensive operations against the Taliban in Laghman province to retake territories. Meanwhile, violence has been raging throughout Afghanistan in the week since US President Joe Biden announced troops would withdraw. The United States last week abandoned Bagram Air Base, the long-time staging ground for US military operations in the country, effectively ending America's longest war. The Pentagon says the withdrawal of US forces is 90% complete and most British soldiers have been pulled out of Afghanistan, ending Britain's official role in a two-decade-long conflict, even as the Taliban are gaining ground amid fears the departure of the foreign soldiers could lead to civil war. Afghan forces have been rebuilding bases in Laghman province that were destroyed by Taliban. Let's quickly go across to Kamal Agar, Foreign Affairs and Strategic Affairs expert, joining us on the show this afternoon. Mr. Agar, thank you so much. Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Prime. Your quick take when Biden says that it is for the it is for the Afghan military and the government to come together and they are better equipped to deal with the situation. And this is, by the way, coming at a time when the Taliban offensive continues in Laghman province. Has this first of all come on expected lines post-Trump administration?
You know, it's basically the continuation of the same policy which was initiated by the Trump administration. Withdrawal. American people also wanted troops to withdraw from Afghanistan. Approximately 2,500 American soldiers have died, and then thousands and thousands of civilians have also lost. Unreasonable war, they dubbed it, you know. That's true, they have withdrawn. But the problem is, you know, who is the gainer? The gainer is now the Taliban and the Pakistan-backed militias, you know. They have every right to withdraw, but, you know, they should also put pressure on Pakistan not to meddle in Afghanistan. And if they do so, you know, the Americans should impose rigorous sanction on Pakistan, like the ones which they have imposed on Iran. You know, otherwise, you know, the whole region will be destabilized. We know they have 70,000 Talibans are there. From where the funding is coming? Afghan people are not funding. It's who are giving, from where they are receiving training and equipment, you know, it's all coming from Pakistan. So the time has come, you know, the international community should issue a stern warning to Pakistan not to meddle in this region, especially in Pakistan. You know.
That's a very pertinent point, Mr. Agar, you being a very close and keen observer of Afghan politics. UK has withdrawn, US has withdrawn, Taliban offensive continues. do you think this also puts in a spot the timings of this withdrawal? At the end of the day, do you think this is going to do more damage to the trouble-torn or conflict-ridden Afghanistan, or is it going to really help them in some way?
Yeah, that is true. The timing, it was too sudden, and the local, the Afghan army was not taken into confidence or properly not handed over the charge of the region. Suddenly, large number of Americans withdraw from Bagram air base without informing the Afghan government. It was the base was looted by the local people. So these are the things, which was not good. Most of the actions taken by the Pentagon, has indirectly, helped the Taliban in that. Then we have seen, whether it is the sudden withdrawal or, not properly, a lot of weapons or ammunition was destroyed, they should have handed over to the Afghan military. So likewise, then they pressurize, Trump administration has pressurized Afghan government to release 5,000 battle-hardened Taliban militants, So these are the things, not favored to the local. Then secondly, the Afghan government was heavily dependent on US for air cover, or for logistic support and many other things, So that is now, suddenly it is missing.
But what is the message that Biden is trying to send across to international community by this sudden pull-out, and that too coming with a lot of appreciation and sort of confidence that he is wanting to tell the world that he is confident about current Afghanistan's ruling regime to deal with the things? Is Biden trying to send across some sort of message across?
You see, because they think, this is the army which is well trained. According to them, they have trained them 20 years it took, for the training. But still, it lacks air cover, it lacks, when it comes to equipment, because the regular supply they would be needing of ammunition at least next 5 year or 4 year, because this is going to be long drawn battle. Civil war-like situation is developing, but the only positive thing with the Afghan government, they have the local support. Local support is with the government, the local militias and other groups, they're coming forward and helping the army. So it will not be easy for Taliban to consolidate their hold, It is initially they are gaining ground, but in the long run, I don't think, because of the lack of support.
And how do you see UK's end of UK's role as well, and the fact that they both decided to pull this out together?
You see, because it was once the American troops withdraw, they are the bulk, or they are the support base for all the other forces, whether it is the British forces or from NATO troops, they were heavily dependent on American military presence in that area. Once the Americans have withdrawn, then all the foreign troops one by one would withdraw, and they are also committed that they would withdraw from Afghanistan. So they are withdrawing. Now need is for regional cooperation. Our foreign minister has gone to Iran, and he had a talk with the Iranian leaders about on Afghanistan, and in Russia also he's discuss this problem, and there is a need for a regional cooperation, at least the Central Asian republics, Iran, Russia, India, together, all these.
You talked about India very briefly. We need to wrap it up, sir. India has always supported Afghan-led government, Afghan-led peace process. In that sense of term, how do you see this? How do you see this, the friendly countries, including India, reacting to this development at the official level, at the diplomatic level?
It's a major concern for India and for the region, this Central Asia and South Asian region, So India being a responsible country, India being a has always played a leadership role in this region, is a concern. India is also taking initiative, bringing all these countries together, so that the vacuum, which is created by the Afghan, by the American withdrawal of the American forces, should be filled by the local.
Okay.
The local government should fill that vacuum, not the outsider,
Absolutely.
not the Taliban militia or the Pakistan backed groups, militant groups. Already, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed militants have joined the Taliban. There are reports, the retired army officers of the Pakistan military, they have also they are also fighting along with the Taliban. So all sorts of reports are coming up. People in Afghanistan, they are extremely concerned. Even the women have come forward. In number of cities. They're supporting the army. They have joined the. They have taken up the arms against the Taliban.
Okay.
So in such a situation, Afghanistan needs help. India
Let's just hope.
Maintains very friendly relations with Afghanistan, and Afghan people wanted India's support at this critical junction.
Yes.
That India is doing.
Absolutely.
Doing that.
Yes. Yeah, let's hope that the US-UK troop withdrawal sees a new dawn of peace process in Afghanistan. Thank you very much, Kamal Agar, for joining us and discussing the story with us. Thank you for joining. And now let's talk about news coming in from Haiti. Haitian police have said that a hit squad composed mostly of the retired Colombian soldiers assassinated Haiti's President Jovenel Moise earlier this week. The group included 26 Colombians and 2 Americans of Haitian origin. Meanwhile, Colombia's Defense Minister Diego Molano on Thursday said that preliminary information indicated that Colombians involved in the assassination of Haiti's President Jovenel Moise were retired members of Colombia's military. Molano said Bogota would cooperate in the investigation.
Frente al magnicidio del presidente de Haití, Jovenel.
Following the assassination of Haitian President, Interpol officially requested information from the Colombian government and from our national police regarding the alleged suspects for this act. Initial information suggests they are Colombian citizens, retired members of the National Army. We, the national government, our police and army, have given instructions for the immediate collaboration in the development of the investigation into the clarification of this act. The complete cooperation of our forces are with our fellow Republic of Haiti.
Meanwhile, Haiti's police paraded 17 men allegedly to be part of the heavily armed commando unit that assassinated Haitian President Jovenel Moise before journalists at a news conference late on Thursday. Authorities tracked the suspected assassins on Wednesday to a house near the scene of the crime in Petionville. 15 Colombians were captured as well as 2 Haitian Americans. 3 of the assailants were killed, 8 remained on the run. And now on Midday Prime, it's time for the news and updates coming in from the world of business. Well, the Department of Economic Affairs in the Finance Ministry on Friday has said that the Indian economy is showing signs of revival from the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic. DA in the monthly economic report released for June said the broad-based economic relief package extended to mitigate the second wave amounted to 6.29 lakh crore rupees. RBI continues with its efforts to calm the nerves of the market and revive sectors with both backward and forward linkages and multiplier effects on growth. The report further stated supply-side disruptions in states and unfavorable base effects drove the broad-based momentum in retail inflation across food, fuel and core categories. Substantiating its claim on the signs of revival, the DA report points to the GST e-way bills rising by 37.1% in June 2021 over May 2021, auguring well for the GST collections in the subsequent months. The report also said that the power consumption growth improved to 4.5% subsequently or sequentially in June this year over the previous month. The report added that while localized lockdowns and mobility restrictions dented automobile sales in May this year, June data on vehicle registrations depicted revitalization of demand as states begging the unlocking process. And the instant messaging platform WhatsApp on Friday told the Delhi High Court that it would not force users to accept its controversial new privacy policy or limit the application's functionality for those who have opted not to accept those terms until the government poses or perhaps government passes the data protection bill which specifies how such data can be processed. The court was hearing a plea by WhatsApp and its parent company Facebook challenging a CCI or Competition Commission of India inquiry. And now the domestic stock market's outlook. It has lost some ground in afternoon deals amid volatile trade on Friday. So the Sensex of the BSE had dropped 213 points or 0.4% to 52,356 a short while ago. The Nifty at the National Stock Exchange had lost 53 points or 0.3% to 15,675. But in the broader market, the BSE Mid-Cap Index had managed to gain 0.4%, while the small cap index had added 0.2%. The top index gainers are Bajaj Finery, Bajaj Finserv, Tata Steel and Bharti Airtel with gains of between 1.2% and 3.5%. The top index losers are Bajaj Auto, TCS, Axis Bank, HDFC Bank with losses of between 0.9% and 1.9%. Let's quickly talk about the Asian markets also. They lost ground on Friday and were set for their worst weekly performance since mid-May. So MSCI's broadest index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan lost 0.3%. Japan's Nikkei 225 index dropped to 0.6%, and South Korea's Kospi slumped 1.1%. China's Shanghai Composite Index was flat, but Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index gained 0.8% after its huge fall yesterday. Fears that central banks will choke economic recovery by tightening policy in their efforts to rein in inflation, a rapidly spreading Delta variant of the coronavirus around the world, and still low rates of vaccination have darkened the economic outlook. And back home at the forex market, the rupee had gained 4 paise against the dollar in opening trade on Friday. Despite a weak trend in the domestic equity markets later, the rupee had appreciated 10 paise to 74 rupees 60 paise against the dollar in afternoon trade a short while ago. At the multi-commodity exchange, gold has gained 85 rupees to 47,806 rupees per 10 grams. Silver had dropped 147 rupees to 68,815 rupees per kilo. Finally, global crude oil prices were mixed on Friday. So Brent crude oil was down 3 cents at $74.09 a barrel. US crude was up 6 cents at $73.0 a barrel. Both Brent and US crude were headed for a weekly loss of nearly 3%, dragged down by the collapse of output talks between the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, including Russia. And now it's time for the stories coming in from the world of sports. And for Sports Prime, Deepika joins us with more. Afternoon, Deepika, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sakal. Let's take a quick look at all sporting updates. Starting with a big story, Prime Minister reviewed preparations for facilitation of India's contingent at Tokyo 2020. Prime Minister discussed the logistical details, their vaccination status, the multidisciplinary support being given. Prime Minister will interact with the Olympic-bound athletes on 13th of July to wish them luck. In a tweet, he said, on behalf of 130 crore Indians, I would be interacting with the Olympics-bound athletes on the 13th of July to wish them luck. Let us all #cheer for India. The Tokyo Olympic Games will be held without spectators in most of the venues as the Japanese capital has entered a fourth state of emergency because of surging COVID-19 infections. Olympic competitions in Tokyo and 3 neighboring prefectures of Chiba, Kanagawa and Saitama will take place behind closed doors. The widely expected move was made following talks between the government, Tokyo organizers and Olympic as well as Paralympic representatives. Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga said on Thursday that the highly infectious Delta COVID-19 variant was spreading in Tokyo, leading the central government to declare a 4th coronavirus state of emergency over the Olympic host city. Japan's top health advisor also joined the televised news conference with Suga and said that medical system would likely come under pressure if no additional steps were taken. The emergency comes just weeks before the Tokyo Olympics opening, but Suga reassured that Olympic athletes are being tested every day upon arrival to prevent the virus from spreading further in Japan. England and Italy are into the finals of Euro 2020. Next report brings you a story thus far of England and Italy.
England will hope to clinch a first major tournament triumph for 55 years when they face Italy on home soil in the Euro 2020 final at Wembley on Sunday night. Not since that famous extra-time success over West Germany in 1966 have the Three Lions even reached another showpiece, with painful near misses at the World Cups of 1990 and 2018, as well as familiar penalty attack at Euro 96. But Gareth Southgate has now led England into an exciting new era with young squad bursting with talent and depth and largely free of the burdens and heavy expectation of the past, with captain Harry Kane's extra-time goal, the rebound from his own saved penalty, defeating Denmark in the semis after Simon Kjær's own goal cancelled out Mikhail Damsgaard's stunning free kick. Before that, there was the quarter-final thrashing of Ukraine in Rome, the historic last 16 defeat of Germany at Wembley, and efficient victories over Croatia and the Czech Republic that secured top spot in Group D. Now, in their first ever European Championship final, England battled a formidable Italy team that have plenty of momentum of their own after a hugely impressive campaign to this point. Italy head into Sunday's final unbeaten in 33 matches and have been gathering momentum throughout Euro 2020 since their opening win against Turkey. After overcoming Belgium, ranked number 1 in the world, the 3-time European champions Spain in the knockout stage, they will fear no one. Their team includes veteran defender Giorgio Chiellini and Leonardo Bonucci, who have both impressed during the tournament. Sunday will be Azzurri's 10th major tournament final and their 4th European Championship final. Sports Desk, DD India.
And in Wimbledon, women's world number 1 Ashley Barty of Australia on Thursday defeated 2018 winner and Germany's player Angelique Kerber in all sets to enter her maiden Wimbledon final in 3rd Grand Slam Wimbledon Championship of the year. Barty created history by defeating Kerber 6-3, 7-6 in 1 hour 27 minutes in the first semi-final. Barty is the first Australian woman to reach Wimbledon finals since Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley in 1980. This is Barty's 2nd Grand Slam final. In 2019, she has won French Open title and had reached the Australian Open semi-finals in the year 2020. Meanwhile, Czech Republic's Karolina Pliskova also stormed into the women's final of the ongoing Wimbledon 2021. Pliskova defeated Belarus's Arina Sabalenka 5-7, 6-4, 6-4 in the semi-final at the Centre Court in London. Pliskova will face Australia's Ashley Barty in the final. And that's all in sports updates. Over to you, Sakal.
Thank you, Deepika, for joining us. Thanks. And before we wrap up, Life Prime is our next segment, and here we bring you stories from the world of art, culture, cinema, fashion, science and innovation, stories that are bringing smiles, stories that are changing lives. Well, Londoners can now stride around their famed Buckingham Palace as the palace opens its gardens to visitors until September, all owing members of the public to explore the grounds of Queen Elizabeth's official residence for the first time. Guests will have the rare opportunity to picnic on one of the monarch's garden lawns. As part of their visit, the garden's current landscape dates back to 1820s when King George IV converted Buckingham Palace into a Buckingham House into a palace. Well, there are more than 1,000 trees on the site, 320 different wildflowers and grasses. And Cannes Films Festival 2021 is catching all eyeballs with actors, models, influencers making the event star-studded as they leave paparazzi engaged while walking the red carpet. So on Wednesday, the third day of the film festival, Hollywood heavyweight Matt Damon, Jodie Turner-Smith and young singer and actress Maliema were among those who walked the red carpet. Models Suju Park, Luma Groth and Frida Asin were joined on the red carpets by influencers from across Europe. Also, British director Joanna Hogg premiered The Souvenir Part 2 in the film festival on Thursday for the director's fortnight competition. The sequel to Hogg's 2019 The Souvenir has already received rave reviews ahead of its Cannes debut. The second part of the autobiographical film features a host of British talent including Tilda Swinton, her daughter Honor Swinton-Byrne, Charlie Heaton and Joe Alwyn. And Matt Damon on Thursday added a touch of Hollywood glamour to Cannes Film Festival as he attended the world premiere of his new thriller Stillwater. Damon was welcomed by excited crowds lining the streets leading to the festival venue. Damon stars as an American father and oil worker Bill Baker from Stillwater, Oklahoma, who travels to Marseille in France to visit his estranged student daughter Allison in jail. Stillwater is produced and directed by Oscar-winning Tom McCarthy of Spotlight fame and co-written by McCarthy, Marcus Hinche, Thomas Bidgain and Noah Debre. Also, a number of films were premiered at Cannes on Thursday. South Korean director Kognada premiered his sci-fi drama After Yang. Kognada walked the red carpet with his stars Jodie Turner-Smith and Haley Lou Richardson and child actor Maliema. French movie director Francois Ozon's latest movie Everything Went Fine on Enthusiasm. Everything Went Fine was also screened at the Cannes Film Festival. The film is about two sisters grappling with their sick father's desire to end his life. Euthanasia is still banned in France, although under a law from 2016, terminally ill patients have the right to be put into continuous deep sedation. Everything Went Fine stars Sophie Macou, André Dussolier, among others. And before we end Midday Prime show, let's see how the Croatian sculptor Nikola Felor is racing against time as he dedicates his time to tracing enormous geometrical sand artworks that last only while the tide is out. Every year at the Zen Opuzin Art Festival in the south of the country, he draws patterns in the sands of Niritwa River Delta only to see his artwork disappear when the water comes back. Felor's art might be transient, but the joy it gives is permanent. Hence, never say never. And on that note, it's time to say goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. Namaskar.